The Chiefs are getting healthier on the ground in Las Vegas as they go hunting for hardware in Super Bowl 58. Today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom around the world. Welcome into Super Bowl week. We're brought to you by Prize Picks today. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is to go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use our code LockedOnNFL to get your first deposit match up to $100. This is Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day for free everywhere. So hit that like, hit the sub, and make sure that you click the bell here on YouTube where we start, and go out to Spotify, Apple, and all the audio platforms to get yours today. Thanks for making us your first listen. We appreciate you checking out another Locked On show, maybe the NFL show, maybe the Locked On Sports Today show. There's plenty of them going around. Just don't listen to the Niners. I'm just saying those guys are, never mind. What we have for you today is going to be fun because media night's over and we can actually start to talk about ball and who's going to be available and what's going on. There's tons of that. You can get more information on our text line. Become an insider over at 816-357-8781. And that is not just for Blake Bell, but you can get into it that way however you like. We're going to run it down for you today. There are distractions out there. How do the Chiefs avoid them? Coming up later in the show. This is the core of what they go for every season. Hunting that hardware is coming up later. But right now, some news and how they look on the field. Matt Derrick is our man on the ground. You can find him at ChiefsDigest.com as well as Chiefs Digest here on the YouTube platform. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. You can find me at NFL33.com, RogueAPC.com, and RGRFootball.com. Tons of content going on there. And Matt, I know the city never sleeps, but hopefully the players are. It was kind of a monstrosity, as Monday night always is Super Bowl week. It looks like things are settling down, and it generally felt to me like the team is focused on getting healthy and focused on just doing what they have to do media-wise to get on down the road. Is that the general feel for you?
Yeah, I mean, the first 2 days of Super Bowl week are kind of nonsensical, and it gets just more nonsensical every year. I probably sound like just a spoiled, elitist sports writer jerk complaining about opening night, but I mean, it is just such a colossal disaster, and it's just so, and it's so loud and everything. You really can't get anything productive done. I mean, they turned it into a fan event, which is fine. I mean, I don't know how exciting it really is to watch people doing interviews that you can't hear, but it's an option, and the NFL can get $30 out of you. They will. But the Monday night opening night has just gotten to be so ridiculous, and now it's spreading into the Tuesday. I mean, the Tuesday is it's not the availability of everybody. It's just 12 players or 11 players today, and Andy Reid, and then they put them at these 11 podiums, little risers at a conference center ballroom in a hotel. And you just go one next door to the other. You see my picture. I think I had I have Joe Toney's podium today, and you can kind of see Travis Kelce in the background next to him with the hordes of media around him. And the first 2 days for the players, yeah, I mean, there's some on-field work and everything, but the majority of it is getting this, media craziness behind them. Wednesday is when it really starts to get to be kind of a regular week. They get into a regular practice schedule, so then it's kind of a normal Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They get into their normal rhythm and routine. That's when you start getting the injury reports. So, anything at this point, there's just kind of, they're working on the field, doing walkthroughs. I mean, it's a little bit different than a normal week. But Wednesday, when it gets really back into a real routine, they still have more media obligations. There's a couple of those, but it's less crazy. I mean, and there's less of the non-NFL reporters around. So, it gets a little bit more football centric rather than, where would you get a tattoo of Patrick Mahomes and, asking about Taylor Swift. So it gets a little more focused and asking if people are going to retire and all that nonsense. So once you get to Wednesday, that's when you can kind of really start setting aside the distractions and get down to the Super Bowl.
Well, and in preparation for Wednesday tomorrow, you guys will be hearing this a little bit Tuesday night, and obviously for your Wednesday show, it is about getting healthy and getting out on that field. You bring up Joe Toney. I'm glad that you did. Not really much clarity on where he's at. I think at this point, we're going to talk about the game plan and everything coming up in the next segment, folks, but you can't really plan for whether a guy's going to make a miraculous recovery or whether you're going to power through it. Seen him out and about around Kansas City before the trip to Vegas. Lifting a 12-ounce beverage is a lot different than playing an actual football game. So right now, where's the temperature on Joe Toney's availability for this Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, Andy Reid said on Tuesday, told us that he's a long shot, and mentioned that he really just that for him to play, he needs to have the normal strength that he has, and he needs to be able to play relatively pain free. They don't want him playing with pain. They don't want him playing if he can't be anywhere close to his normal self. So, yeah, I mean, with his injury, it sounds like it's going to be difficult for him to play. Certainly, he'll be doing all the rehab that he can, and the training staff will be working with him. But from at least the people that I've talked to, and even talking to Nick Allegretti last night, and he didn't show his cards, but I can say, Nick seemed like the kind of guy who was getting ready to start a Super Bowl. I mean, that was the mood that I would say I think Nick was in. So even though Allegretti and Toney didn't really tip their hands as far as where they are, I think between what Andy said to us on Tuesday morning and what I've heard from Nick here at the Super Bowl and talking to him, I think Allegretti is going to be starting and Toney will probably be out for the Super Bowl.
Folks, we are brought to you today by Prize Picks. If you want to get in the action, that's a good way to do it. And hey, if you want to actually take a chance on it, that might be something you might want to look at. I'll tell you more about Prize Picks coming up here. But that's not the only player here. On the positive side, looks like Willie Gay is 100% back to normal. Hopefully that neck is good and loosened up. His energy is so, I think, critical to what this defense does. Getting him back, I see as a big boon. Are you confident at this point that he looks like he's on track?
Yeah, when we asked him last night Monday night at the opening night about how it felt, he really moved around his neck and swiveled it around and everything to just say, nope, feels great. And he said he was glad that he did not play in the AFC Championship game because he said he felt like if he had played that game, he would have hurt it worse and would have kept him out of the Super Bowl. So he felt like not playing in the AFC Championship game was the right decision to keep him and get him healthy and get him right for the Super Bowl. And he says he's right to go. I mean, we'll find out what the first injury report comes out Wednesday. But I wouldn't be surprised. I would expect him at this point probably a full participant. I mean, if he's limited, then keep an eye on it. But right now, it looks like all systems are go for Willie to play in the Super Bowl.
Well, that's music to my ears. And to round out the injury situation, we know that they activated Jerick McKinnon. We know that Kadarius Toney is available. I'm not expecting much from either of them in this particular Super Bowl. Where do you stand on them?
Yeah, I mean, and McKinnon, Reid said is not practicing yet, even though they've designated him to return. That's more of a technical thing than a consequential thing for this game. So if he's still not practicing, through Tuesday, that's probably a pretty good sign that he won't be available. Like I said, Andy Reid said it was slim that McKinnon could play. I think it's pretty unlikely at this point. Toney, honestly, it looks like it's kind of the same boat that he has been in. And if anything, though, I mean, his health has improved so that he's no longer been on the injury report with that hip and that ankle. So apparently there's no medical consequence that's really keeping him from playing at this point. It would probably be just more rust and availability. Remember, he hasn't really played for 6 weeks. So, I mean, that's a long time to be off to then say to a guy, hey, your first game back, Super Bowl 58, go get it. Not ruling it out, but if Kadarius plays, it wouldn't be in a significant role. I mean, it would be very probably similar to the role, honestly, he played last year in the Super Bowl. I mean, specific packages, just things that were designed, especially for him. Not as a regular every down receiver, but just as a rotational niche piece and just specific formations. The other factor to really consider is Sky Moore, and the Chiefs have to make a decision by Wednesday whether they're going to add him to the active roster. They have a spot if they want to with Charles Omenihu because they still haven't placed him on IR. So they've got a place to play with if they want to activate Sky. And I think of, between Sky and Kadarius, Sky is probably more likely to play at this point than Toney is.
Well, we're going to see how that unfurls. We're getting ready for the actual updates and seeing somebody on a practice field. We're looking forward to that. But it's all in preparation for hunting the next trophy. That's coming down the week. What is this game going to look like? X's and O's on the field. That's coming up next here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And I have to tell you, it doesn't matter whether you're somebody at home like me and you might make a mistake and not get something off the smoker on time on Super Bowl Sunday, or if you just don't want to deal with it. If you want to make sure that you get the best spread for the Super Bowl and you don't want to lift a finger to do it, there's a really, really easy way to do it, and that's DoorDash. You can make sure that you can personalize everything that you want, get everything that you're looking for, whether it's down the street, maybe from Joe's, maybe it's in a pizza shuttle. Who knows what you're looking for, but you can get it through DoorDash. And right now, you get 50% off of a $10 value, a minimum 15 there, to get your first order in the bank there when you download the app, the DoorDash app that is, and enter code LOCKED23. It's subject to change and terms do apply, but you can get in the action and get everything that you're looking for and not have to lift a finger for it. Again, that's 50% off on a minimum $15 order. Get in there and get it done. You guys are going to love what you get by not having to put the work in and get your Super Bowl plan done. 50% off with our code LOCKED23 at DoorDash. Just grab that app and get into it. It's subject to change. Terms do apply, but check out DoorDash. And then when you save that money, you might want to place it somewhere. And right now, PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy app with over 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS against anyone. More or less is the key to this game. You're going to choose what you think happens for a given player. Patrick Mahomes, 278 yards. Does he go more or does he go less? You're going to choose that for him and 1 to 5 other players. We're an entry for 2 to 6 players total. Put those all together, send that in, and you are going to be in the action on the big game. It's right around the corner. PrizePicks makes it super simple. This time, right now, you can get in the action up to 100 times your money. With as little as 4 correct picks, you can turn 10 into $1,000. That does expire post-game. But if you are looking to get more than 1 yard out of Patrick Mahomes, I certainly am, you want to go get in the action at PrizePicks. Make your life easier and have a good time doing it. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use our code LockedOnNFL. That's all one word, all lowercase. And make your first deposit up to $100. They're going to match that. So you put 100 in, they're going to give you 100. And don't forget, if Patrick throws for a singular yard in the big game, you're already winning on PrizePicks. Make sure you go check that out at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use our code LockedOnNFL. Now, Matt, I'm pretty sure a yard is within the realm of possibility for Patrick Mahomes. But with all these additions that we have, getting some guys back, there's some injuries on the other side as well. And until we get an official injury report, I don't think we need to run down the San Francisco side. But it comes down to this. This is a team that I think through the media has at least acknowledged that they are still remembering the last time they were in this situation and lost to the Chiefs. The Chiefs, again, have rounded through, gotten another championships, hunting that hardware again. It's kind of the theme of the day for me. And it's not just about the AFC trophy, it's about the Lombardi. And putting it together game plan-wise, when you have these variations, you have all this nonsense going on. Andy Reid talked about putting the game plan in last week, solidifying, getting execution and preparation done this week. That seems a little bit light compared to what some other teams in that last week prior to the ball game. What's the tempo around the team, and does that lead to more of a comfort factor or just a more steady growth of anticipation to get on the field?
I think it is definitely a comfort factor for this team that, Andy Reid doesn't do anything differently during Super Bowl week than he usually does. I mean, it's I think Patrick's even kind of, joked about the fact that he's got a Super Bowl routine down now, and which you can do when you play in the game 4 times in 5 years. But yeah, I think the players absolutely appreciate that Andy does have this familiarity and he does have kind of doing things the same way. And honestly, I mean, the Chiefs have also been fortunate enough that their schedule for all of these Super Bowls have been the same. I mean, the 2021 being the exception with the COVIDs, and they practice back in their facility back home. But otherwise, I mean, they've had the same media availability schedules, same practice schedules. I mean, doing everything the same way for all three of these games. And I think that absolutely has helped out. It helps them get into a routine. And he also, like you mentioned, I mean, he's very big on making sure that the game plan is in before they get on the plane, because there's just not time to do that kind of work when you get to Vegas. And the last, couple of days are a great example. I mean, Monday and Tuesday, you get a little bit of teamwork done, but most of it's, outside obligations, and it is things that could be distractions. But, as the week goes on, they get more and more focused on the football part of it, and day by day, to the point where when you get to Wednesday, Thursday, and especially by Friday, I mean, you are locked in. I mean, everything else is done. Thursday morning, their last media, responsibilities are done. And after that, I mean, it's, the next 48 hours are really game week. I mean, that's what it is. It turns into a regular game week, just with a lot more fanfare and foo-foo, for lack of a better word.
Hey, we'll quote you on that one. This is a game that I see going one of two ways. Either doubling down on what we've seen in a workman-like offensive approach, relying on the defense, running the ball some, which I am all in favor of. I think they can win doing that. But it also feels like this pressure to, again, like you said, 4 Super Bowls, 5 years, trying to get that third trophy, going and pulling the stops out, especially if you get a player back like Moore or like Toney, and you feel like you can use them. It does feel like there's kind of a left hook out there waiting to be thrown, but I don't know that they need it, and I don't know if that actually should be the game plan. I don't want to see them to go back to hunting for home runs. Do you feel like what we've seen through the playoff run has to be what the expectation is and the best approach to get this win?
Well, I think that honestly, I mean, I think this team has done a pretty good job of, kind of setting its own, kind of, attitude for this game. And I think that decision and the way that they've kind of gone about things has kind of taken the pressure off of them, whether they are the underdog, whether they are the villain. And, and there's been plenty of things that suggest, I mean, the point spread obviously is one thing, and they'll absolutely use that as an advantage. Say, hey, if the 49ers are favored, we're the underdog. There was a lot of booing, from Raiders, 49ers fans at opening night. So they get to feel like they're the villain too, not in addition to being the underdog. And they're embracing that. I mean, this team does feel like it's them against the world. So I don't think that they feel like that there's any pressure on them to win. If anything, they're convincing themselves that the world wants them to lose and believes that they will. And therefore, the only thing they have is free money to go out there and prove everybody wrong. And that's kind of the attitude that they're in. I think it's a lot different than, I think there was a lot more pressure on them in Super Bowl 55 against the Buccaneers, because I think that was, hey, you had the 14-2 regular season. It just seemed like you were just destined. They all along had been saying, run it back. So the pressure was on from day one to do that. And then obviously you had a lot of things happening off the field before that game that just even more added to the pressure and to the distraction. But this game, I mean, it does feel like a different tone and different from these players for sure. Because I don't sense, any sort of, apprehension or nervousness or concern from this team about, they're getting plenty of questions about dynasties and destinies and legacies and all of these things. But they're pretty much setting it aside. I mean, that applies, I think, mostly to Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed and maybe Chris Jones. For everybody else, they're just playing, hey, we're the underdog, we're the villain, we're wearing the black hat, and we're just going to go out there and ruin everybody's party.
Well, hey, that's got to be the goal, right? And you can get that trophy, get the hardware in the process of that. It takes concentration, though, and it takes focus. How do they avoid the distractions? Well, it's about enjoying the little things and ruling everything else out. We're going to get to that coming up next on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'll tell you, there's a lot going on, and concentration is something that you need. This segment is brought to you by BetterHelp, and sometimes you just need to get something off your chest. Maybe you just need to concentrate. Maybe it's going to help you to move on and get that out and about. All those things can add up, and today you want to feel like you can say what you have to say and make yourself feel a little bit better about it. If you're thinking about the same thing, today is the time. There's plenty of frustrations. The Chiefs have finally come around to the game plan that I've been looking for, I don't know, 7 years. And I'm just nervous here. I'll voice my frustrations that they're going to go away from it and just purposely annoy me. That's really my big concern. But if I needed to say that to someone other than you guys, I would say, hey, therapy's a different way to go, and it can be different for everyone. Most of us, we want to get those things off our chest and the bigger problems, whether it's your favorite sports team right now or whether it's something else that is eating at you that you want to get out in the open every now and then. If you're thinking of starting therapy, try BetterHelp right now. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and suitable to your schedule. It's adaptable to what you need. There's a process behind it that guarantees that you get what you're looking for. It's at betterhelp.com/lockedon and get 10% off of your first month right now. Suited to your schedule, set up for everything that you're liking post Super Bowl. Hopefully everybody will have less to complain about at that point and we'll be happier for it. But it's at BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon. Distractions, Matt. Certainly media night, and those are some of the things. Like you said, staying loose, being able to let things kind of roll off your back, I think that certainly does help. There's a couple of things that I think really have to be looked at, and then I think you have to move on from them. And I want to get your read on a couple of them. First is the fact that you get to go in and play this ball game, and your name and your logo are all over the locker room of one of your most bitter rivals in this league. How surreal is that to have the team getting ready in the home locker room for the Las Vegas Raiders, and how do you get past that?
Yeah, it has been something that obviously the guys have been asked a lot about and everything. And I know, some of them were saying, yeah, we're covering up some of the Raiders, logos and colors with Chiefs logos and everything. Sure, those won't stick around or anything. But hey, even, Clark Hunt's watching, Super Bowl opening night with Mark Davis. I mean, it's, you're getting a lot of these little kinship makes strange bedfellows as far as what we're getting from the Super Bowl. But I think at the same time, it's a little bit motivating for this team. I mean, it's another way that they're having some fun. I think there's, to a certain degree, there's just this kind of like, perverse joy I think they'd be taking from, hey, winning a Super Bowl from inside Raiders territory and, inside the enemy's fort. So I think they're kind of enjoying that a little bit. I'm really intrigued to see what, the kind of game crowd is, because Super Bowl week and like opening night, the crowd doesn't give you indication of what the crowd's going to be like for the game itself. I mean, it's going to be more, 49ers and Chiefs fans. There won't be as many Raiders fans in there. Won't be as many locals. But it does make me curious to see, because the Chiefs have really, played in some pretty even-handed, even in Tampa. I mean, they weren't really, the overwhelming underdog as far as inside that stadium that day, because it was COVID and everything was a little bit, muted for that. But, I mean, even it was probably a pro Chiefs crowd in Miami. I think it was pretty evenly split, in Phoenix. I'm expecting that this is going to be a pro 49ers crowd. We will see what becomes of it, but, how they do respond to that. But there's no doubt. I mean, the team is practicing also, I mean, the Raiders facility is really the closest they get to the strip at any particular moment in time. It's about a 30-minute trip between where they're staying and where the Raiders facility is. And Raiders' facility is not that far away from where Allegiant Stadium is. But where the Chiefs are in Henderson is, I mean, it's out there. I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, there's no gambling, there's nothing else out there. There's no shows, nothing like that. So it's a nice little resort. Don't get me wrong, but they are bunkered in there. I mean, I think even the security perimeter is a little bit stronger than it has been for some past Super Bowls. So nothing outside the team or the NFL's purview is getting into that building this week.
Well, I think that makes sense. I like the idea, and there's been hubbub made about the visitor practice facilities at UNLV, with the Chiefs working in what is one of the newest facilities in the league. I think that it certainly helps. I can't say it gives them a drastic advantage, but being able to stay focused, I think that's part of it. It goes to show that as you prepare, you will play. So all those situations coming together, I think, speaks pretty well for what their chances are. Now, before we get your early prediction on this ball game to wrap up the 2023-24 season, I got to ask, I personally conspiracy theory in these giant rounded bubbles of helmets and things around town are purely fictional and CGI. Is the team concerned? Are you looking over your shoulder all the time? What's going on with these giant orbs?
I mean, the giant orbs haven't concerned me as much as seeing Carrot Top everywhere I go. I mean, that's I had Carrot Top was walking into the stadium with me on Monday night, and I didn't realize it was him the first time that we were walking next to each other. And he kind of even looked over at me because I was staring at him, because I was asking myself, hey, wait, why did they give a day pass to this kind of, I don't know, out of work junkie? Because time has not been good to Carrot Top. And it wasn't until he was inside the stadium and I got to see him from the front, and he walked past me again. And I was like, wait a minute, that's Carrot Top. Andy Reid didn't even recognize him when he started asking him questions. And that is how crazy this is, that when Carrot Top is asking questions at press conferences, and honestly, that's not even the weirdest thing that happened, it tells you a lot about Super Bowl week.
Okay. Well, certainly sets it up to be interesting. How interesting is it on the field for you? What do you see happening in this ballgame?
Yeah, I'm still kind of digging in for a score, but I'm trying to come up with a reason that I can not curse the Chiefs on this one. But I feel like that right now, I mean, as long as the offense doesn't have any self-inflicted wounds, which they have not done now for a few games in a row, they've been playing very well. Chiefs defense has obviously been itself the entire season, and now maybe playing its best football of the year. I think the time off has certainly helped both sides of the football. I mean, I'm trying to come up with the reason not to say the Chiefs are going to win this 23-10. I'm going to have to convince myself that, the Chiefs defense can be scored upon a bit more, that maybe the offense, I don't think they're going to go for 30 or anything of that nature. I don't think they expect that the Chiefs are going to do that all of a sudden. But I just think that even though the 49ers, I think you could arguably say, have been the better team over the course of the season, question is who's playing better football right now. And over the last 5 weeks, I think that's the Kansas City Chiefs.
I think I have to agree. You're going to hear my prediction along with Chris Clark's on Fridays. We get you ready with our preview and prediction show tomorrow. Eric Crocker, Brian Peacock, me and Chris, we go head-to-head 2-on-2. We'll see who comes out the victor. Join us tomorrow. Matt, thanks for spending your time live from Las Vegas. We appreciate the insight.
Always appreciate it, Ryan. Take care, everybody.
Folks, you have a great day. We have information for you all week long. Check out the Locked On Sports Today feed. Our feed will be back tomorrow with the crossover and then the preview. You might even get a little bit of extra content as we get ready for our live postgame following Super Bowl 58. Do not miss a shred of it. We thank you for being with us here today, and we'll talk to you then.